Martial arts and life have a lot in common. Both take a tremendous amount of patience, determination, grit, a strong mindset. And to get either done correctly, you need the right people to listen to. This is Beyond the Mat, the podcast where real talk meets raw insights. Get ready to dive deep into the world of martial arts, coaching, business, and health as we bring you candid conversations with professionals, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs who are making waves beyond the confines of the dojo. From the adrenaline-fueled arena of combat sports to the boardrooms of successful enterprises, Beyond the Mat is your go-to destination for real and raw discussions, plus invaluable lessons learned on and off the mat. So, if you're ready to unlock the secrets to success in every aspect of your life, let's do this. Live from the Great 1-8, this is Beyond the Mat, where warriors are made and legacies are forged. Here's Mark Cox.
All right. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's the, I just had that new promo done, the voiceover. So that's the first time we got to see that. So I got to hear
That's
it.
nice.
So it's good. Sounds good. I like that guy. I found him on Fiverr, believe it or not. He's from Texas too. The guy that does all my voices over.
Oh, nice.
That you hear. I found him on Fiverr and he's a Texas guy too. He just, he kind of gets me for sure. Well, good morning. It's, 9 o'clock here. You're in Texas time. I'm in California time. So, we're kind of in between. Those that are listening out there, if you're giving us a listen, go ahead and say hi to everybody. And with no further ado, Ms. Kirkpatrick, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself and kind of what you do. And then we're going to jump right into it. Sound good?
Oh, sounds good. I'm going to take up half your show.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah. So what do? I write books.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're okay. Yeah, I write books. So I'm an author. Realized I thought it was 14. I just hit 15 times award-winning international bestselling author. My goal was to hit 12. And after going through everything today and looking at all the books and what I've gotten, it's like, wow, I actually hit 15. I'm just pretty shocked, but I'm really pleased. It was a lot of hard work. And saying that, I actually help other people write their books. I'm a publisher now, and I'm a coach. I'm a mentor. Have a new membership on Facebook. It's called Value in You Academy, and it's just wonderful. Women 40-65, helping them find their purpose in life and supporting each other and growing that purpose. Have my own TV show, which is The Value in You. I'm all about the value people have, offering hope, because hope really is real. I had someone say to me one time, oh, hope is just something nice you say to people. And I was like, no, without hope, you've got nothing to pull you forward or to propel you forward. And I just started a magazine called Wisdom on the Front Porch. Haven't got it out yet. Still getting sponsors and getting it all set up. And let's see, is there anything else I do? I'm sure there is. Oh yeah, I have a nonprofit. It's called Orphans and Widows. And what my nonprofit does is actually raise funds for other nonprofits that are already successful at what they're doing, like the Idaho Youth Ranch, Battle to Be, other things like that, just really helping people. And it's not just necessarily orphans, but also wayward children. So we just got to keep going.
That's true, right? That's when people have purpose, they have life. When people lose their purpose, they start losing their life. So I think that is an important thing. I see that myself with where I work with military, especially, or retired cops and stuff like that. Emilio says hi. He's on here listening.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Emilio.
Yes. It's good to have him. So let's talk about your first book that you did. How did you decide to become an author, and where did you do that through?
It's actually my grandchildren. I've always written poetry, always started books, but didn't know how to get past the first couple of chapters or paragraphs. And so I kind of let it go to the side. Then I had grandchildren and I would tell them stories, but I would tell them stories just on the spur of the moment, and they would go, Grandma, tell me a story you told me 2 weeks ago. And it's like, I can't remember what I told you 2 weeks ago. So I kind of cheated a little bit. And this is a great hint for any grandparents, aunts, uncles out there. I used the stories I was familiar with, the bedtime stories I grew up with, the fairy tales, things like that. And I would substitute their name for the main character. I would substitute the things that my grandkids liked for what was going on in there. So I could remember what, or close enough to what I had told them 2 or 3 weeks before. And that seemed to help a lot. Then we moved away. And it was harder to tell bedtime stories over the phone, even on video. And so I started writing down stories for them, and I'd mail it to them just because I loved them or it was their birthday. And then I put those stories into these Shutterfly and Vistaprint books, one at a time, just something like that. And one of the books I did, I thought I would do something special. I actually hired a friend of my daughter's who's this amazing artist. Her name is Hannah Falenga, and she is really amazing. And I asked if she would do the pictures for the book, and she said yes. Well, the kind of art that she does is not the kind of art you typically put into a children's book, but she did it. She said, please don't ask me to do it again, because she's a very strong artist, very perfectionist in what she does. And so it was difficult her to give these things that they were beautiful, amazing. I mean, nobody would know that she didn't like doing it. It was just amazing, but it wasn't what she's comfortable with. So I promised her I wouldn't do that. So anyways, I did that for my grandchildren. My daughter said, you have to get this published. It took her 3 years to finally get me to do that. Well, in the meantime, I thought, well, if she wants me to publish a book, I've written some others, so I'll put those on Amazon. You write your book, you publish it on Amazon, and everybody's going to buy your book, right? No, it doesn't work that way at all.
That's a big fat no.
Yeah. And so I heard this, watched this commercial. I usually don't pay attention to the ads on YouTube or anywhere because it's like, my life is full enough. I don't need other stuff. But this one said, if you're hearing crickets from your books, and I thought, hearing crickets, that would be nice. I'm not even gathering dust on them. And so I did my very first mastermind, my webinar. I never even knew what they were. And so from there, it gave me courage to keep on going. So I finally stepped through my fear of what if it doesn't work right? What if nobody likes it? And all that stuff that goes through your mind. And I went through the course and I learned how to do the publishing correctly, how to work with my book. And my first book I did publicly was, well, let's see if it's the black book over there, kind of black and white. And it's Modern Day Miracles Experienced by Ordinary People. And it went #1 and it went international. And that was phenomenal for my first book. I was so excited. And I thought, oh, that sounds fun. And then someone said, hey, you want to write a little story for my book? And I go, sure. So I did that. My first anthology. Had no idea what an anthology was. Looked it up and it said, okay, a bunch of stories by other people put together in one book. I can do that. And that book went bestseller. And then it was really cool because the funds from that book, the main author was going to use to give to a foundation that she supports. And I thought, that's fabulous. Not only do you have these amazing people that are writing their stories in this book, it's going to a great cause. And it's like, I want to do that. So that started another book, The Giving Book, which I do every year. And then in the meantime, I thought, well, maybe I should actually get my children's book out there. So I did, found a vanity publisher, and we got my children's book out there, the one I wrote for my granddaughters. And then it's like, well, I have this other story, and I'm learning more about publishing, and I kind of would like to have a little more freedom in my publishing. So I had another children's story. I published it myself, found my own illustrator, formatted it myself, had someone else do the editing, because it's always good to have someone else do the editing. And I got that book on Amazon and it went #1 bestseller. Didn't do international because I didn't go into those venues yet. But that was really the start of when I began to publish books. And I've done another children's books. I have another one coming out. It's going to come out in June. And so it's just kind of steamrolled from there.
Well, let's ask where that, because we have authors that are going to listen to this as it is, right? So, and you are correct about Tammy's on here saying hi to you.
Oh, hi, Tammy. Hi.
So we, I've written books too, and Amelia has always said this also. Most authors will get around 150 books that they sell, and then if you get past that, you're doing well, and then of course you got that bestseller and stuff like that. But when you did the kids' book, did you learn stuff? Did you learn on how to go bestseller, or how did you promote your book? What would you tell an author that's out there? What is it that you did? What mistakes did you make? And then how did you overcome those mistakes and move on to what you did?
Oh, wow. So all of the above, and there's tons of mistakes. So learn from mine. Yeah, it's I'm not going to say working with a publisher was a mistake, because you learn stuff, just look at the mistakes, the failures as a way to learn and grow. Because if you're not making mistakes, you're not really going to grow. So I found out from actually talking to other children's authors, children's books are very different than a business book, very different than a young adult book, very different than a fiction or a nonfiction book. There's just a whole different world that goes on with that. My books do not follow some of the normal guidelines that you have for children's book. You look at Dr. Seuss, everything rhymes. You look at Cat in the Hat, it's kind of the same thing. A lot of the books are rhyming books. My books are stories, more like fairy tales and things like that we would have heard in our childhood. And the reason I did this is that's how I did it for my grandchildren. I wanted to tell them a story. Didn't necessarily have to make it rhyme. And I'm kind of going into that realm with another book, but that's really different, getting everything to rhyme and still tell the story while you're rhyming. But I wanted my books to be entertaining, something they'd want to read again and again. Not that they don't these other books, because they really do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so popular. So I kind of approach it that way. And you have to have the images, the illustrations match the story. So the illustrations can kind of tell the story without the words, but they actually enhance each other. Hi, Daniela. It's good to see you. The fun thing about writing children's books is all the creative imagination, because kids don't have rules when it comes to imagination. Things can do anything they want to. And you can talk about things that most adults tell us not to talk about, like farts and butts and climbing trees and hanging upside down like monkeys and climbing in the clouds and jumping through rainbows. I mean, it's just an amazing thing to do with children's books. But as far as mistakes, it's, part of it is you have to learn as you go. The best thing to do is just write it the way you want it to be, and then go from there. Find someone who actually does publish children's books. That makes a big thing. And the big thing is, why do you want to write a children's book? Why do you want to publish it? Once you find out those whys, then it's a lot easier to navigate where you want to go and what you want to do with it. I
think that's true. Just not just in book writing, but anything. why are you doing this? Right. Does it sound cool to do, or is there something behind it? I've wanted to dabble into a children's book myself. Okay. I've wanted to talk about bullying and how to overcome it, and how to have a kid read something where I know that they struggle with, okay, whether it's they're being made fun of in school for their looks, or maybe they're a little slow in reading. How did the martial arts overcome that? How do you overcome those insecurities, right? So that's what I've been dabbling with this. Like, how do I do this? Now we had somebody, her name is called Jiu-Jitsu Jack. She's a girl that's in our Georgia school, and she has special needs, and her mom has wrote this book about her. Her name's Jacqueline.
Awesome.
And so all the artists did was use her, right? So they cartooned her, and it's her journey, with special needs, and her mom through this journey of jujitsu, and they call it Jiu-Jitsu Jack. And she is, it's out there being sold. And I was like, man, I really, if people know me, I have a heart for those that can't stick up for themselves, whether it's bullying, whether it's special needs, especially because they get bullied and by adults and kids. It's just so irritating to me. Right. And so I wanted to make sure that when I'm there, I have the ability to, help those that can't help themselves out. And to believe it or not, it's even for adults, right?
Yeah.
That, they get just as bullied, whether it's online or whether it's anywhere else. You can just see it happening.
Even in the workplace. Yeah.
Yes. Right. And so I wanted to dabble with that. So maybe that's a conversation we can have one day, because I think it's right. You have to do somebody that does children's books. How do you go about write that? How is it something they're going to want to read all the time? How do you create this superhero villain type thing if you want to do that, right? How does how does Bully Bob get how does Bully Bob?
I'm so excited for you.
So
I am.
it's that's so when I wrote the first one, I was with Emilio's who I wrote the first book through, and it was it is a learning experience for sure. Anybody out there, I encourage everybody to write a book though.
Yeah, it's a great experience. It's tough, but it's great. Don't be afraid. I look at fear as a hologram, and a hologram is there. It looks very real, but you put your hand through it. You can jump through it. You can turn your back on it and it's not going to attack you. It can't do anything to you. Your fear can't do anything to you except you let it hold you back. So just step through it. Take the risk. Emilio has this book coming out. It's called Born to Risk. I'm one of the authors in it. And
I'm in there with you.
And it's like, what does he say? With great risk comes great rewards. And it is so true. You get these amazing rewards for doing something, and it feels good. I mean, it just makes you feel good to know that, wow, I did that. I didn't think I could do it, and I wanted to quit, but I did it. And that's just phenomenal. Now, as far as your children's book, I just have all these ideas going on in my head, and I see comic books and I see all kinds of things going on. So yeah, we definitely need to talk about it.
Yes, it would be good, man. We've got quite a few people coming here. Michael Faber's on saying hi.
Hey, hi, Michael.
Isn't he? He's a cool cat, right? I got to hang out with him for a while.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I was so jealous. I didn't get enough time with him at our last event.
Yeah, it was fun. He had a good time. Let's see. Yes, the greatest risk is reward. No reward without risk. I think everybody talks about that. Born to Risk, and Michael's saying, "Hey, all you guys are awesome. He's a good cat. I enjoy him." So so that's where I'm at, right? And then you talk about comic books, right? And what could the comic books go into, and the whole 9 yards? And I'm like, man, that's it. I'm gonna dabble into something that's just gonna take up some more of my time. But we'll talk about that, because I just think that it's funny. I enjoyed comics when I was a kid, man. I enjoyed the Silly Putty, and
Oh
then you
yeah.
put it on the
Oh, yeah.
newspaper and
Oh,
you peel off
nice.
the ink, and it was on your Silly Putty. I enjoyed that so much back in the day. My kids look at me like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You guys just don't
That was
know,
a lot
man."
of
I
fun.
said, "You just don't know what Saturday mornings were all about." You had
Yeah.
Looney Tunes, and and of course my kids in the '90s, they had some good '90s cartoons still coming around, but I don't see much of that as what it is today. And
No.
so I think it's
No.
important to have something out there that some kind of a series with that. So,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
now that you see when you started doing authoring, did you go ahead and start some speaking? Because I know that you and I do have a trophy in common from Emilio's thing, right? I see yours right back there.
Yeah,
Um,
you betcha.
you know, so let's talk about how you won that one and where that was.
Okay. Well, I'll kind of give you my story first. I'll try and do a Reader's Digest version, a condensed version of it. So when I took this webinar and I got into learning about what to do, I mean, this world opened up to me. I didn't know half of what was going. I didn't even know most of what was going on in this world. I was pretty much a stay-at-home grandma. I had my jobs that I went to, and that was my world. I didn't know about Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Evan Carmichael. I didn't know about these people. John Tallarico. It's like, who were they? And here I am being privileged to be in their presence and learn from them and be mentored by them. And it was just amazing. So I've had this huge learning curve, and it's only been 2 years. Let's see, it would be 2 years and 5 months that I've been in this world. So it's like it can happen. But it was, one of the requirements to finish up that class that I was in was you had to do a summit, a webinar or something. So I did a summit, and I needed 8 speakers, and I had so many people that wanted to speak that I said, well, why don't I just try a podcast? Let's just do that. So that's where that turned into. And the speaking came out of that was after the summit. I enjoyed it so much. I love the energy that everybody has. That's why I like doing live shows, because you just have all this great energy coming in. That's why I like having guest speakers, because there's even more energy going on and the dynamics that happen with it. And so, yeah, I got to know Daniela and Emilio, and it's like, well, hey, you want to do the speaker thing, and you want to write my book? And it's like, sure, why not? So I did that. And I didn't want to just give a speech. I didn't want to just, say something just for that night. I really wanted to impact who was in the audience, even if it was just the other competitors. I wanted to leave them with something that would really add value to their life. And I think it was that drive and that motivation that helped me win. I'd never been in a speech competition before, first time ever. So getting an award was shocking to me. It's like there were so many amazing speakers. Are you kidding me? And it's like, wow. So it's like, maybe there is something inside of me that has to get out. And it kind of helped me hone in on who I was and what my real purpose was. I love writing stories, going to keep on writing. But I realized that over the last 2 years, the one thing I keep hearing people say is they don't know that they have value inside of them. They don't know that they're worthy. That was my big thing growing up. I didn't think I was worthy for anything, never enough, And so what I try to let people know is that they do have value inside them, because they're the only ones who've had to make the choices that they've had to make. And nobody else will ever be like them. Nobody ever was them, because they're living in the moment. They have to decide how they're going to act or react to the choices other people make that directly affect them. And all of that stuff that they make, all those choices and the decisions and what they do or don't do, that's their value. And that value is really what makes them worthy, not the jobs, not what they do, not what people say. It's the value inside of us that makes us worthy. And that's what makes us enough, just like we are. Yes, we can always improve on ourselves. We can always better ourselves. Nothing wrong with that. And because of all of that worthy, that value, being enough, that's how we matter in the world. You matter. You make a difference in this world because you have a way of seeing the world that only you can see. Excuse me. And that's what counts. And that's really where the hope comes from. I actually had somebody say to me, hope is just something that somebody says to be nice. And it's like, no, hope is so much more than that. Hope is pulling you out of a tough situation you're in because you know that it's going to get better. It's like taking the risk. We have the hope that there's going to be a great reward at the end of that risk. So we take the risk and we find out it's true. There's the hope that when we step through our fear, something good's going to come of it. And so you step through your fear and you go through the struggles because there's always struggles in life. If you're not struggling, it's because you're kind of being static. You're just there. So take a chance, take a step forward.
Definitely for sure. Now have you, I heard you say, do you do some of your own speaking stuff now also? Is that what you're doing along with coming?
Not yet, but I'm going to start that up because
Yeah.
I really, really love to empower people. And sometimes they just need a stage. That's with my giving book. People who write in that usually have something that they've always wanted to say, but it doesn't quite fit in with everything they've done before. So this gives them a platform to do that. Whether it's poetry or photography, something like that. My first 3 volumes of the giving book, there was someone who wrote in all 3, and it gave them the courage to write their own book, to finally write. Another one was to finally write that children's book that they've always wanted to write, but they were always afraid to. And I try to make it as easy, as simple and comfortable as possible. Don't stress out about it. Just do what you enjoy. Have it come from your heart. And the first 3 volumes have just been so wonderful, such great messages. And I'm surprised that somebody in South Africa can be writing something where somebody in Illinois are writing something, and their stories work so good together. So it's just wonderful to see these great minds that don't even know each other, don't even know what each other's writing, come together in this book. And here's this amazing thing happening.
I believe that to be true. I think that, when we get in a room, when we are not bombarded by negative press or we're being oppressed by and what's trying to drive a narrative, and when we really get in a room together, you find out very quickly that even different on the political screen, but not people aren't what people portray to be.
Yeah.
Most people want to have. Most people are good people, and I tell this in my self-defense classes. Most people are really good people. That's why really good people have a hard time sometimes taking martial arts, because you have to go to another side. You have to flip your switch in order to be able to defend yourself. And I tell them, I said, it's a struggle, right? Because a lot of people don't like hitting other people because they're good people. But when bad people come, you got to be able to flip a switch.
Yeah.
And I tell them that all the time. I said, we're not really here to defend ourselves against good people. We're here to defend ourselves. We're here to defend good people from bad people. So it's such a turnaround on what that is. But I do know this. I know that my book, when I first did it, it was and I'll tell you, it was very daunting, and I had a really hard time with understanding how to write it. Emilio kind of coached me through some of that stuff, and then got a writer that helped me. Right, so we would meet every week, and I would tell my stories to her, and then she kind of helped me. And I was like, okay, I can do this. Then the anthologies came around, and I got a love-hate relationship with anthologies.
Me too.
It's like, okay, it's a great way to get one of your stories out, right? It kind of reminds me of what's that? What's those series? Everybody knows it. Something for the Soul. Soup for the
Chicken
Soul.
Soup for the Soul.
Yeah, there you go. Chicken
Yeah.
Soup for the Soul. Right. And those were some really good stories in there. Right. That's kind of where I guess when I think of anthology, I always think of that book.
Yeah.
And so, but it's such a love-hate relationship because you put a lot of time into it, and then to try and get your investment back is kind of hard to do. And I've come to the realization sometimes it's not about getting the investment back; it's about what you're putting out there.
Mhm.
It just kind of
Yeah.
furthers where you are. And so, yes, I do have a serious love-hate relationship with him, for sure. And I got, I'm in the Born to Risk, and I did that spiritual fitness one also. Dear Younger Me, I just did that one.
Oh, me too.
That's coming out. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was a unique one. I enjoyed how I wrote that one because I wrote a letter to myself in that one.
Yeah.
Right. So I made it like I wrote a letter back to my younger self as opposed to a story. And I thought that was a good catch. I wanted to do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Where I, my struggles in life when I was I was always competitive, but I always didn't have this. I didn't have somebody kind of push me from behind. And I
Right.
was in my 20s when I found martial arts. And that kind of helped me push me over that edge. And so I wanted to talk about that on I'm unique at, being a martial artist is a unique thing, right? People are kind of intrigued by black belts. When you say you're a black belt in something, that for some reason it intrigues them, whether it's Hollywood or, they think first thing they think about Bruce Lee, or the first thing they think is,
Oh, yeah.
gosh, you must be able to kick someone's ass, or two, you must have some serious discipline. I mean, that's what I hear about all the time. And there's so much more to it. That's why even my podcast is just like this, just having people like you on the mat is a unique thing, that it's a physical thing for us, but your mat is a little bit different. Your life's a little bit different, but what's beyond it is no different. And what can you learn from these things that you've done in your life? And how do you take it to the next level to help somebody else? And as you get older, I was once the pit bull, to now I'm kind of the junkyard dog, right?
Yeah.
I'm the old junkyard dog that still has one fight in him if needed. And I've trained all these young kids up that are way better than I ever was. And so it's always fun to see that, including my own sons. And when I look back on what you're talking about purpose and how the speaking and how they kind of correlate, once I did the book, and I tried, I'm super competitive, right? And I did a bunch of these with Emilio. He knows it too, that I did some of these speaking competition. When it becomes a competition, I was like, man, and it was hard for me to, first it was, and then I won it on Zoom, and I told him I will never do a virtual speaking contest again. And I said, I'm adamant on that, because you don't have the same energy as you do in the live room.
Yeah.
And I
I
said,
agree
I'm not
with
doing
that.
it. I'm not doing that anymore, man. It's a waste. It's a waste of money. I'm not doing it. And I wouldn't do it. This last one, I'd already lost 3 or 4 times. I said, I'm not doing it. And then what's he do? Sends Daniela on me. Right. It's easy for me to tell Emilio no. I have no problem doing that. And Doc's on there. So I said, it's easy to tell Emilio no, but Daniela not so much. And so I did this last one, and that's the one that I won, right? And I did it virtually, which is a hard thing for real. Look at Daniela laughing. Whatever, dog.
Yeah.
So but the impact of it was, it's now kind of spilled over to some other people, because I just didn't give up on it, I guess is what I was trying to say. I hate all the yeah, he sent out the big guns. That's right. Yeah, he did that. That was not fair. That's unfair. I'm a big tough dude, and then you get women have a different kind of take
Vibe.
on things. So they
That's right.
they pull your strings a little bit different. It sucks. This is Daniela. This is true. Now, Amelia, if you're still listening, like I told Amelia, Mark Cox listens to me. Why don't you? That's his. Yeah, if you want to have a fun interview, I interviewed the two of them. That was awesome.
I bet. I'm gonna have to go and look at that.
Yeah, you go look at that one. That was a good one, man. I hit them between the eyes a little bit on that interview, so it was really good. So I also see that you got a couple other awards in the back. Let's talk about the other ones that you have. Are those ones from AMA? Is one of those from CLA
or a couple of them are from AMA for writing Born to Risk, and I don't remember the other one. Sorry.
Yeah.
But and then one is from CLA for, I have to read it, Rising Star Award. Totally shocked. Did not expect that one at all.
Well, I was in that room also, and I got that executive leadership award, and that was that was something that Emilio got that also, but Jose was like that was totally unexpected. Anything like that. I didn't really I didn't expect that in that room. That was a nice surprise. And it was a way of saying, hey, you know what? There's definitely something about that. And I talk a lot about public and private victories. And public victory, like that would be a public victory. Everybody's kind of clapping for you and all that kind of stuff. And it feels good. And, I'm always one of those guys. I don't, when I get these kind of things, I like to win for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong, but after I win, I don't want to really talk about it too much. I like to get that victory, and then I like to kind of have that private victory moment where I'll sit back. And I remember I took a picture of that sitting at the table, and I said, man, I remember the phone call. I've known Jose for a long time, so I remember the phone call. I was probably in the top 10 or 15 of him calling me because we had been in the martial arts world together for so long. And he's doing this CLA thing. And I said, okay, if you're doing it, I'm going to hop on. I'm going to hop on board with you. And we'll see where this goes. And that's, believe it or not, his CLA is kind of where Emilio came into play. So isn't it weird how the connections, when you sit back and look at how, God has a way of just kind of forming a ball and putting puzzle pieces together that we can never see. So it starts there. Emilio comes around, and I remember asking him about him too. I called up Jose and said, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about him? And then he told me he's doing the same thing. And that's how this book launch starts to go. And then when we all did that back in January, when we all launched together, I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to do it again after that. Yeah. To be honest with you. But then, because it was a struggle, man, it was hard.
Yeah.
But then then some of the anthologies came up, and I have one in the works. I have another one that's more of a workbook. It's gonna be a hard book. It's called, Black Belt Tactics in Life and Business, stuff that I've learned, stuff that you can write in it. And I started it, and it's almost, believe it or not, it's almost done. I just didn't go through with it yet.
Oh.
Because I was working on speaking.
Yeah.
I said, I want to get this speaking down. And then the podcast grew because of CLA. It's just so, how things go. And if you take
it grew because of you. CLA was a good place for it to give you a springboard for it, but you got to take credit for you too.
Well, yes.
You're humble. So yeah.
Yeah. I know that the podcast thing is a weird thing. I just did the podcast when the pandemic was kind of around, and I did it so my great-great-grandchildren they're going to hear about me. Hey, you had a grandpa that was a world champion in martial arts. Did you know that? And they're going to have no idea what that is because, world championships are great that year, but the next day after you do it, you're on to the next thing. It doesn't really matter. It kind of matters to the person. It doesn't really matter to anybody else. Yeah. So what have you done today? And so I wanted to have something that they can go back on and say, hey, this is my grandfather. This is my great-great-grandfather. This is how he thought. This is how he was. Look at how he was. Look how he lived his life. And I did it actually for a legacy. Then all of a sudden, being an author came into play, and I'm like, I get to meet all these new type of people. It's a different type of fighter, right? And all these authors are different type of fighters. Either they're fighting something mentally, they fight something physically. And I was like, wow, this has been awesome. Then what came around? Entrepreneurs. All these guys that are getting out there, getting after it. All these guys that have you got the CLA, and you got Michael Faber, and you got Emilio Zama. You got all these guys. And then all of a sudden, I have access to all these people that with these, Daniela, she takes me off my game. So because you trusted Emilio, you gained an event wife, which is true. The last event, I was like, she was like, I said, man, she is my event wife, man. She's freaking awesome. You know, I have a cup of coffee. What do you want? I got to get Emilio something. You want something? It was awesome. I got spoiled up in there.
That's cool. I have a question for you, Mark. I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to actually interview you just a little bit.
Okay, go ahead. Ask me a question. When you wrote
your story for Born to Risk, did you find some things about yourself that were kind of surprising you, that were a little bit hard to talk about? But when you wrote that letter, was it like, wow?
Oh, you talking about not Born to Risk? You're talking about Dear Younger Me.
Oh, so I'm sorry, Dear Younger Me.
So when I wrote the letter to myself, yes, there was very hard times.
Yeah.
There were super hard times.
Too. Yeah. I went with a different approach. Mine was going to look in the mirror and talk to my 12-year-old self. And I actually went to do that because I thought, hey, if I'm going to write about it, I want to experience it. And the only mirror we had in the house at the time that I was in, was in the bathroom, and I couldn't get through the master bedroom to go there. I just stopped. I could not face that 12-year-old because that 12-year-old had all of these dreams and these plans and this wonderful thing going on. And I didn't do those things. So how would I be able to face that 12-year-old and not have that 12-year-old be disappointed? I did, and it's a great story. I don't want to say any more than that because I really don't want to ruin it for anybody. But like you, it was not easy to do that. It surprised me because I'm one who can always look in the mirror. Now I can look myself in the mirror, whether it's a 12-year-old or whether it's me. And hey, great, you're fantastic, you're doing wonderful, you are Superwoman, and do all of that. Where before I couldn't do it. It was kind of a shock. And so I'm glad to, not that you had to go through that, but glad to know that maybe these other co-authors, maybe they struggled too, that it's not so easy to write yourself a letter because we had expectations then, and we don't want to disappoint ourselves or disappoint others. And I like how my story ended up. It was really surprising, and it actually gave me that boost I needed. So maybe it's a good thing to write a letter to our 12-year-old self.
Well, I don't think there is anything wrong with that for sure. 100%. The truth be told, the truth is never really told. There's a song out that says that the truth be told, the truth is never really told. And when you have to start, then you have to pick and choose what you're going to talk about, because some of it is pretty rough. There's some stuff that I haven't talked about at all, and what makes me the way I am, because I'm that rough guy, but I'm that, I got that teddy bear side of me, but I'll flip on a dime, and I know why that is. I know what in my life it happened. And when I was writing the letter to myself, I was like, one of the main things is how to control anger, because anger is a brutal, just a brutal sin. It makes you do things that you would never think you would do.
And there's nothing wrong with having anger, but it's what you do with that anger.
Yes.
You're angry at an injustice that's happening. So are you going to just fly off the handle and make it worse? Or are you going to harness that anger and use it to make something right that's been wrong? Or are you going to take it and say, you know what, I acknowledge that you're there, but you're not appropriate here. This is not a place for you, so you need to leave. You know, how you deal with it makes a huge difference. And you have to acknowledge it. You cannot ignore it, or it's going to just keep hitting back more and more. But what do you do with it after you acknowledge it? That's where the real power comes in.
I agree with that. I think that is, I think that's a powerful thing. I wrote the letter. I wrote mine the way I did that so that my students can read how I write to myself, where I was at some of their ages now, because I do see that.
Oh,
I see their struggles even now at their young age.
yeah.
This is Big Ray. If you guys don't know Ray, if you guys are listening, he's the one that does a lot of my tattoos.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's
Hey, Ray, we need to talk.
He's an awesome artist himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you have to be.
I think that anger and negative emotions can be turned around. It's a choice. That's true, a choice. You're right about it. It's a choice. And sometimes I choose just to be mad. So, you know what I mean?
There you go. Yeah.
And then
Michael said something earlier, and we didn't get a chance to acknowledge him. But hi, Michael. I'm glad you're here. He says he's new to Connected Leaders Academy.
Did I miss a Michael? Oh, my gosh. Oh, Michael Duffy. Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, there he is. He is there live. Hey, Mike, I'm sorry about that. There you are. I went back on there. I thought I put that up, but I didn't. I'm sorry about that. But thanks for tuning in, man. It's awesome. It's been very active here today. Well, here's the thing. I was looking at your Facebook the other day, and I called up Danielle and Emilio and said, hey, I'm getting ready to interview her. And it shows that you got a good 8,000 followers anyway. So it's obviously something you've impacted a lot of people's lives for sure.
Oh, I plan on keep doing that. That's
based on what you're
there's nothing better. And you probably agree with this, with all that you're doing, both with your martial arts, your books now, and your podcast, is there is nothing better than knowing that something you did, the value you gave into somebody else, is helping them reach what they want to do, reach their goal, to feel better about themselves. And that's just energizing, motivational. I don't know what you want to call it. That's where the real power is seeing somebody who maybe was afraid, or maybe thought, I can't do it. That's not me. And it's like, why not? That was something that I got. I went to New York, never ever wanted to go to New York, didn't know anything about it, I didn't know where anything was. I don't know the difference between Manhattan and New York City and all of that. I don't know how it all works. And I went by myself to a place I had no idea where I was going. It was terrifying, but yet it was like, why not? Let's go do it. And while I'm there, we're walking by Carnegie Hall, and I went to Tiffany's, and all of a sudden I'm at Carnegie Hall, and it's just like, the old V8 commercials where you go, oh, wow, I'm at Carnegie Hall. I am at Carnegie Hall in New York City. And it's like, I always wanted to play piano there. Why haven't I ever done it? I'm 65 years old. I don't mind telling my age. I'm 65 years old. Why didn't I ever go play at Carnegie Hall? And I couldn't answer my question. Sometimes that happens. We get this thing that's in our heads, like, well, what's stopping me? Why can't I do it? Why haven't I done it? Why aren't I writing this book, or whatever it is? Why aren't I, dancing? Who knows what it is? Well, that's going through my mind. Kind of put it on the back burner. We have dinner, everybody's together, and we're doing things. We're joining our walk, and I get back to the hotel, and I'm getting dressed for the night. All of a sudden it hits me. I know why. I always heard growing up, that is for other people, not me. And I'm like, why not? There it is. Why isn't it for me? And it's like, well, it is. It is. I didn't fly on Pan Am because that was for other people. I never flew the Conair because that was for other people. didn't go diving or take martial arts when I was younger because, well, that's for other people. And it's like, how awful to have that. And it's not that my parents didn't know what they were saying, but that was their belief. It's, oh, that's for other people, not us. And how sad, it wasn't until my parents were older that, well, especially my mom, that she started doing some things that she realized she could do. And my dad was this amazing artist. I am not an amazing artist by no means. My dad was, and he never had the encouragement growing up to do anything, to set it out. But as he got older, he started making these things out of metal and taking old farm machinery, turning them to these beautiful, beautiful gates. And it was just wonderful. But it was, he came from a very tough childhood. That's all I'm going to say on that right now. And my mom was very insecure. It's kind of weird that the two of them matched up together, but it is what it is. So now, saying that, now I've got an event coming up in Carnegie Hall where I will play piano. Plus, I've got other artists that are going to be there. It's so exciting. I'm really excited for it. I'm looking for sponsors. Hint, hint, if anybody's out there.
Ray says he can relate to that for sure.
Awesome,
I think a lot of people can relate to that. I remember when I first started competing, when I first saw what this guy was doing, I said, man, I'm going to do that. I'm going to win a world championship doing that. And so I went after it. And then my next thing was, I don't know, am I ever going to, should I make it on ESPN when they do it? And sure enough, I made it on ESPN one time for the finals, because it was in Florida when I competed in that one, and usually the ESPN, it's like low level karate movies, so it's on the low end of ESPN, but I was on it, so I made it on there back in the day, and I remember doing that, and I remember some really strong things in my life where I thought, man, I didn't think I'd ever be able to do this. Where I thought when I first started martial arts and I fell in love with it, and then about blue belt level, I said, man, I'm going to own a school one day. And I mean to tell you, everybody told me I would not do it. Everybody. And I said,
oh no.
I said, Daniela, like, wow, ESPN. I know it sounds really awesome, Daniela. Don't get it. It's one of those midnight ESPN. I got to fill in a spot. So we'll watch this.
It's like I was on the Today Show.
So, you know what I mean? So, it sounds really good. I was on ESPN, breaking bricks. It was at 2:00 in the morning, but I was on.
Who cares? You were there. You did it.
But I
anyways,
remember
everybody was telling you weren't going to do it. I can't imagine that kind of negativity. For me, I would have quit.
Well, I was told. I was definitely told. I was always told, hey, you don't really have the body type for what martial arts is, and you don't have, I didn't have any schooling. I didn't have this. I didn't have money. And I said, everybody that, I would take that negativity. I'm that guy that likes that, right? Keep on telling me what I can and won't do.
Yeah.
And
I'll prove you wrong.
I said, I'm going to prove you wrong. Not only going to prove you wrong, at one point in your life, you're going to come to me for advice, is what's going to happen.
Yes.
And so, and of course, that's happened. That has definitely came to fruition, where other school owners would come to me now for advice on how to do the business of martial arts.
Yeah.
And
I
was told, man, and I tell, when I speak on stage, I tell this quite often. I said, people that love you the most are sometimes the most negative for you. And it's not because they're negative because they're jealous. They don't want to see you go through a failure or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So instead of just having your back, they're just, I don't know if you should do that. And it's just not like, and that's why I've always encouraged my own kids. Hey, you got a dream? Then get after it. Okay. Get after it. Learn, you got to make your money to make money, but if you want to get after it, then you need to go after what you love, because once you go after what you love, you don't go to work anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You enjoy life then.
Yeah. Your love is is either, what mine is on the mat, that's where I like to be, and I get to do it. So I for sure like that. And I like listening to what you have to say. And then when you say that you're going to be playing a piano in Carnegie Hall, I mean, think about that, right? Think about that. When you do it, it's going to be awesome, right? Because I know that as I've gotten older, there's other stuff that I want to do, because I'm right behind you. I'm 63, and
Yeah. All right.
so and I've told everybody, they ask me quite often, because I did 22 rounds on my 63rd birthday, 22 3-minute rounds
Wow.
with all my students, right? I rolled with them all, and my instructor at the end. And it was a fun day. But I tell everybody that, because people ask me, they go, man, I don't know how you do it at 63. I said, I'm going to tell you something. I remember this. I remember when I turned 50 and I thought the world was stopping. But where you are exactly today, you wish you were there that time 10 years from now. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Always.
So
Always.
it's just one of those things that I just know. I just know to be true. So what I want to do is, as we wind down this here, and this has been a phenomenal hour. I knew this would be fun. And I look forward to us having a discussion about some kids' books or comics or something to that effect, because that just, to me, sounds fun.
Oh, yeah.
And to believe it or not, I've got this, now that you've got me on this comic book, the characters, just based on my instructors, like my son and Ashley, and, we got, what that could look like would be fun. That would be kind of a fun project for sure.
Yeah.
And I got Ray over here. Ray's the artist. He'd probably help us with that. So I think that I want you to go ahead and end and give somebody, some advice that you have for those that are looking to maybe write a book, maybe go speak, or, to just jot down their thoughts. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you end with that. So you go ahead and take it away. Okay.
So my biggest advice is the Nike. Just do it. Don't wait. Write it down. It doesn't matter if it makes sense right now or not. Don't worry about editing it. Don't worry about anything else, what anybody else says. Just do it. If you don't want to write it, you can always record it. You've got recording ability on your phone. You can record it on Zoom or other apps that are out there, and then you can have it transcribed, so it's already kind of halfway done for you. And you can get a hold of me, get a hold of Millie. There's a lot of people who do publishing who can help you. The one thing I like to do is help you walk through it so you understand the process, you understand what's required of you, because that makes it easier. I'll give you a real big tip on how to write something. You do the writing at the same place, the same time, the same day, even if it's every day, because that way your brain, when say you're going to write at 3:00, and I learned this from watching an interview by Stephen King, of Stephen King. He, 3:00 Wednesdays for 3-4 hours, he's in his room. Phone doesn't answer unless the house is burning down around him. You don't knock on his door. Kids get hurt, call the ambulance. Don't bother me, I'm writing. So you need to have that mentality of being at the same place, same time, because what happens is your brain says, hey, it's almost 3:00. We're getting into writing mode. And so you're already there. If you do it sporadically, off and on or whatever, your brain has to adjust to the time. Then all your time writing has gone to something else. There's a lot of these little writing workshops where you write for 15 minutes at a time, but you're busy on your phone, you're doing this, you're answering emails. Well, no, you need to set it down for that time. I know a lady who gets in her car 15 minutes before she walks into the house, she writes on her book. I know someone else who also gets in their car, and as soon as they get in the car after work, they take 15 minutes. I don't know, something special about 15 minutes in your car, I guess, but it takes 15 minutes to write before they drive home. A lot of people like me woke up 3:00 in the morning with this idea or this story. So I have a notepad beside my bed with a pen, and I write the idea down. And sometimes that idea gets into a story. So I get up, I go in my office, I write the story, I write the book, and it's done by the time my husband gets up and goes to work. So you've got to just really concentrate. Biggest thing I can tell you is I tell people to get a chair, and who is sitting in that chair. You picture what they look like, how old they are, what color their skin is, what color their hair is, what kind of clothes they wear, what things do they like to do, how old are they married, are they not married, do they have kids, do they don't have kids, do they have friends, are they aunts, uncles? You know everything about this person sitting in that chair. And that is who you're telling your story to. That will not only get you clarity on what your story is about, it gives you clarity on what you want to tell that person. And I've got a lot more hints, tips, tricks. You can go on my website, www.lskirkpatrick.com, and I've got a free bonus page in there. And it has some of these ideas and stuff in it that you can, download and use for yourself. But that's the best thing is just do it. Start writing. If you want to start a business, why do you want to start the business? That's that big why. Why do you want to do it? And who do you want to do it for? Get that chair out, that one person you want it for. And that gives you clarity onto what you want to do for your business. When you find out why, that gives you such a focus that you wouldn't have any idea otherwise what you're doing. Took me, here it is, almost 2.5 years. And I finally got the clarity and focus of who I want to do it for, what it is I want to do. And then I can just go from there. And it's just one thing after another. It's just falling into place. Totally amazing.
That's good. Excellent passion, excellent delivery for sure. I'll make sure that this will be in audio format also. Awesome. At the end of today, I'll have it in audio so you can also share it with everybody on your page. YouTube is already up, so you can go share that portion of it. But I will do this. I will make sure that everybody has your contact information on all show notes also.
Thank you so much,
where they
Mark.
can get a hold of you. This has been this really has been a good interview. I mean, you were well engaged the entire time, and people are enjoying what you have to say. Obviously, you're out there changing lives and being a force to be reckoned with. So it's been great. So I really appreciate our time. If we have time, maybe we'll do a part 2, and we'll dabble into the intricate parts of writing. Maybe we'll do some of this child thing together, and we'll see what can happen.
Cool.
Sound good?
Sounds great. Right. Thank you.
All right. Well, you have a good day, guys. Bye, everyone.
You've been listening to Beyond the Mat. Our passion is martial arts, and that branches off to coaching, business, and health. So we think it's important to sit down with professionals, coaches, authors, entrepreneurs, anyone who's making waves beyond the confines of the dojo. Thanks for coming over. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit the website at markcox.com and hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Beyond the Mat Podcast. Find the show on Spotify and Apple. Beyond the Mat. Till next time, keep it real.